Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream. Today, as we do every Saturday, going to be focusing on my portfolio on this redesign here. We've been doing a lot of work on the wireframes. We kind of wrapped up the landing page and the about page last time. So I want to dive in and start tweaking the about page a little bit more because we kind of did it quickly at the end. And then work on some of the other pages. We've kind of got the blog to kind of figure out a little bit more. We've got some of the work pages as well. I think that should be it. So I want to also review our information architecture, the sitemap, to make sure we're all on the same page. And then hopefully that will take maybe, I don't know, a little bit of time, and we can start rolling into the high fidelity side of things. So that's kind of what the agenda is going to be looking like today. As we see, we've got our Trello board here. Oh, before we get rolling, I do want to share, we've got the Discord is up and running. So if anybody wants to join and kind of chat with us in your free time when we're not doing the streams, you're more than welcome to. It should be in the About section below. Otherwise, you can definitely find it in my tweets on Twitter. So go ahead, check it out, join us. We just talk about portfolios, design, code, all sorts of activities, fun stuff as well. So we're pretty chill community, growing. And if you're a subscriber on Twitch, there is a subscriber-only private channel on the Discord, so you can get a little bit more of a sort of tailored conversation just for the subscribers. So another reason to subscribe. So hopefully you're considering it. Great. So let's dive right in here. So we've been talking about solidifying the wireframe direction and sort of these wireframe experiments that we're doing here. Which I think is great. So I'm going to open up our nice portfolio discovery document that we've been kind of working from. This is really discovery/definition, but I think that's okay for what we're dealing with here. Great, so let's keep on rolling here. So we've got all this good information here. I kind of opened up some of the ones that we've been looking at here. We kind of got our unique value proposition. So this is kind of the site hierarchy that we've been working from so far. So let's see here. We've kind of did the landing page. We kind of did the about page, blog, and we also talked about adding a projects. I talked about this a little bit last time. Project/work page, just to be kind of a nice. I don't know. So I currently have one on my website, and so for SEO purposes, it'd be nice to make sure that I can have a redirect to a different page, and just kind of thinking about. If somebody was Googling like Nick Basile work, that page would probably come up because it has the content on it. So I don't know. I think for SEO purposes and just kind of thinking about how people might be looking for me, it would be useful to have sort of just one page. And I don't think it has to be very complex. It's more of just an index page that just kind of highlights my work, my projects, and it could be very much based on what we already have for the landing page. That's kind of where my head's at right now for the information architecture. So let's go ahead and minimize this guy and open up our wireframes. And I'm going to go ahead and actually just kind of make some notes here about the pages that we're talking about. I think we've been using Helvetica. Yeah, so I guess I was using Quicksand on a different project. Cool. Is that going to play nice? Okay, awesome. So we've got the landing page and the about. We talked about blog, and inside the blog we have tags and posts, which I had to remember, otherwise I'm going to forget tags. And then we've also got the work page, work/projects. We'll call it projects because that's kind of how I've been describing it. /work. All right, so that's just kind of a little information architecture, and maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. Awesome. Let's kind of just review where we're at, just so we're taking a peek here. So we've got this hero section, which I think we spent a lot of time on. It's looking pretty good. We had a debate last time about the navigation. I'm feeling better about that. I think that's pretty good. So those will all link to different pages currently. They won't link to anchor tags here. Those will all be different pages. We kind of got this work history section here. We've got some writing, which is looking good. This media section as well, looking good. I was actually thinking about, does this need to be a 2-column grid here, or can this baby be more of a horizontal approach, kind of like what we were doing up here with the projects? But for now, I kind of like it. It's different. So let's keep on rolling here. We've kind of got our join me on Twitch call to action, and then sort of the about details and then the contact me, which I think is the footer, which is great. And I noticed we brought the footer up to the about page here. I'm gonna go ahead and make the footer a symbol, just so we can, actually maybe grouping it would be good as well. So that's kind of footer content. My layer management for this project has been atrocious, but we've been moving quickly. Let's see. All right, so that's a footer symbol. If we want to make any tweaks to that, it won't be the end of the world. So now I'm just going to come in here and insert that symbol. Nice. So center align that. Cool. That's awesome. Sketch symbols are great. They really save you a lot of work, especially for those kind of components that you're using time and time again. We kind of threw this page together fairly quickly, so I just kind of want to review it, make sure we're still liking it, still liking the direction here. This looks like it's closer, 71 pixels away. I know we're not really focusing too much here on the spacing, just kind of getting a feel for things, but just maybe making that a little bit more consistent, I think would be nice. I'm not a huge fan of this like white space here. I kind of like my text to be center aligned, so I'm wondering if we can play with that a little bit more. So maybe hi, I'm Nick. So we could do a couple of different things. We could bring this picture here and maybe bring this like over. I don't know. I'm just playing with some ideas now. That's what this is for, just experimenting. I always think about Bob Ross whenever he goes and he paints over all that incredible work that he did. And it's just like, why are you doing that, Bob? And then he keeps going and it looks better than it ever was. So don't be afraid to just kind of look at something and say, you know what, can we tweak this? Can we change this? Is there something here that that we can change a little bit or make look a little bit better? So that's kind of where I get the courage to do that sometimes. Group all those guys together. All right, so this kind of works. We kind of alleviate some of that white spacing issues. This photo might be too big, and it looks like it's not even a perfect square. We did this really fast last time, so let me tweak this a little bit. Maybe we can make it a circle. We're kind of using rectangles for images, though. So maybe, what's the border radius on that guy? 5? Maybe that'll help. Yeah, that kind of just softens it a little bit more, makes it a little more friendly. That's pretty much what border radius really can help with. Apart from affordances, they're definitely great for an affordance if you are doing like a button or something. That's looking pretty good. Just makes it a little friendlier. Maybe we make this a little bit larger. Just because it looks like, so that's like 21 pixels and that's 25, so that's the text hierarchy there could use a little bit of work. Oh, that was pretty good. So maybe we make this like 40? No, 38 maybe. There's a whole bunch. I think with line height, people get really caught up in making it like really mathematically correct, which you can do. I'm more of like, is it optically working for what you're trying to do? I think that's just slightly more important there. So I like this where it's going. Maybe we can make this a little smaller like that, maybe. 10. That looks like enough white space. Maybe group those guys together. How would that look if these are center aligned like this? Or maybe we can try, top aligning and baseline as well. So baseline doesn't look terrible. Maybe we'll try making, how tall is this? It's like 158. So what if we made this like 175? Just made it a little smaller. Because one thing that's nice when you're establishing a text or visual hierarchy, images will grab your attention faster than text will, even though this is very large text. Just because we're humans, we like looking at pictures. We're visual creatures, so to speak. So that's just something to keep in mind here. So if the picture is way larger than anything else on the page, it's really going to grab your attention first. That's just something that we should be keeping in mind here. I'm kind of enjoying the center alignment once we've got the spacing a little bit more worked out. So let's kind of roll with that. Let's group all that together. Let's see what happens if we center align this a little bit more. Nice. We'll kind of dig in where this is the direction here. And we'll kind of make sure that's aligned a little bit better. And then I can kind of have my spiel about myself. Let me bring that up. And these are just going to be links to other parts about me. And obviously, I don't know if I'm going to keep this copy here, or actually, let's try left aligning it. Yeah, I think that works a lot nicer. I'm not sure if I'll keep those button labels, but I think for the most part that looks really pretty good. I'm just paying attention to your consistency, your visual hierarchy. These are the things that really help polish a design. Before everything, we did it very quickly, and so it was a little bit off. And it looked okay, the content was there. But just making sure we've got all this polished, I think, goes a long way to making this look designed, right, as opposed to just slapped together. It's kind of that's really the only difference between someone who slaps something together and someone who's designed something. The designer has paid attention to these little details and just made it look consistent and has a logic behind it. Alrighty, so I'm digging that about page there. I think that's much better than what we had. Any feedback in the chat? Any thoughts? Center aligning text too is kind of nice. You can make sure the max. It's easier to code too, which I think will be. I mean, it's not easier. It's just like this is this can be a section, or not a section, but a div. That'll be a div, as opposed to having like a 2-column div, and then you got to structure it on mobile, get real fancy with it. But I think this works out pretty well for us. Nice. Okay, so let's keep on rolling on here. So we've got our about page. What do we have now? Let's look at the projects work page. I'm actually going to reorder this. Blog, I think, should be fairly straightforward. Oop. Oh boy. Well, that's weird. All right. Takes care of that. So let's just kind of duplicate this page. And we'll call this projects work. Should probably have a singular focus, but that's okay. So first thing we're going to do is make this regular, and we'll make that bold, just so people know what page they're on. Nice. It's funny. So when I'm designing a product, I'm really concerned about making sure that the hero sections are relatively consistent. Or if I'm designing like a marketing page, a website, making sure that these kind of hero sections are very consistent between all the different screens. That consistency helps the user, so they don't have to like just keep shoving tons of information into their long-term memory. With this portfolio site, though, I'm a little less concerned about it, and the reason is that these are supposed to be unique and supposed to be kind of a little bit different, or they can be. They're not supposed to be, but they can be. So I'm a little less concerned with the consistency between pages. Like each of them can feel like their own design component. But that said, I'm wondering if there's a way to bring some visual consistency here, because right now we've got two hero section styles, right? But is that the direction I really want this to go? Maybe we can get rid of this image here. I wanted to keep that. Same spot. What do we say, like projects? Do I have any descriptions about my projects? Not really. Down here I kind of had stuff on my writing. Which is kind of an interesting approach here. I kind of like, I'm enjoying this sort of text-based interface here. I don't know, it just feels kind of clean. Obviously there will be some designed components down here, so we'll get rid of that for now. But I'm wondering if we could just get away with having this be more like, here's a little snippet of information in the middle. So that could work. Let's go look at some of our friends, our inspirational sites. So let's see, we've got Ravi's. So he's kind of only, I guess he's got his design portfolio here, so let's launch this website. Ravi's is great. So I don't know if we're going to be able to pull a lot of, yeah, so I don't know if this fits the direction that we've decided to go. Justine, she's only got these case studies here, and these look like they're all linking out to Medium or other sites, which is a great approach. So I think Charlie had, excuse me, had an actual work page in Yeah, so we go to his menu down here. So he's kind of taking this approach where he's just kind of showing, I don't know if this is the exact same text from in here. Yeah, it looks like he's just repeating the content, which is fine. I think that's an awesome approach as well. Maybe it's got a little more for some of them that he's got more to write about. And then he's got his case studies here, which I think is pretty nice. It's a great portfolio. I think he's put a lot of thought into his writing and when he wants to talk about and highlight in each of these. So his content is really awesome. Definitely encourage you guys to look at that. Derek's site is kind of this text approach. Doesn't really have many project information, and Patrick's doesn't either. Let's go on Dribble. We haven't really looked at Dribble in a while for some inspiration here. So let's see. I'm going to type in portfolio. And sometimes you just need to look at a few things. I think a lot of times people think like creatives just go into a room and just kind of brainstorm and fully formed designs spring out of their heads. We talked a little bit about this last time. But no, we all look for inspiration. People are solving design problems. And so if we're running into similar design problems, how can we go about solving them, remixing it, solving it in our own context, but just taking a little bit of inspiration from other folks? This is pretty cool. Kind of similar to what we're doing on the landing page, right? That'd be kind of an interesting business card. Almost got that business card feel because of that paper background, which is pretty cool. What else do we have here? It's kind of got the nice illustration there. I'm seeing more and more of this kind of illustration on the right with the sort of bubble sides, which we're kind of doing, kind of making sure ours is nice and modern, up to date. This looks like a little bit more of what we're going for here with the simplicity, more of a text-based interface. Kind of looking for an interesting way that we can kind of go with these projects here. That one's kind of cool. That's pretty cool. I like the kind of white space in between all of them. I love interfaces like this. It's kind of like a little bit of, like it's a huge image and then just a little bit of details on them. I always think that's really done really well. Let's see here. Kind of what we're doing. Yeah, there we go. This looks like it might have some projects on it. Kind of cool. You can't do this in web design, but the print design of this would be interesting. I shouldn't say print design. The dribble shot is what we're talking about here. This one's kind of doing it too. I wonder if we could do something like that. Kind of maybe have a big image. And then if we always look at what I'm currently doing. I think it's always a nice, reviewing your previous work, I think you get a lot of ideas out of that. So we kind of got this career section, just doing a little bit of a load there. And I kind of was playing with this notion of these filters, kind of letting people see where I've been working, what my jobs are at. And then we kind of have these skill charts here, which I like these. I'm thinking about including them somehow. Maybe less of the hover effect and more, I don't know, different approach here. But these are actually job postings. I was kind of interested more on the portfolio side of things. Less interested in highlighting my work experience at this point and more about the work I've done. Awesome. So this was kind of a similar approach. Not really as much. I guess some of these are coded and some of these are not. So I like this. I think it's kind of an interesting concept, but I don't really want to keep on doing this. I don't think. I do like the skills kind of highlighting, but not sure I want to keep on talking about this stuff here. Yeah, this is a little, yeah, it's not perfect. You can see the view is getting cut off and the S here, so that's why we're redesigning this. The back end for this was fun. Really, it took me a lot of time to get this figured out. So maybe, okay, I like this download resume button here, so maybe we can have a call to action in our nav, or in our, in here. What if we did, all right, I'm gonna go back on what we did. What if we did have an image here? Just kind of like an anchor image. Say projects. Say something like a collection of my best work. Something like that. I don't know. That can change. Text can always change. And sometimes we get too focused in on making the text perfect, but which is important. I think text is the most important part of the interface. But for right now, let's kind of roll with it and see how we can come up with some things. And then we can kind of have this button here. So let me grab one of those. Alrighty, I'll bring that maybe up to the top. No, I should probably check the spacing here. What are we at? 20? Okay. I don't know, if folks want to get the resume, this might be where they look. Track 9. Anyone didn't know you can do math in these, which is my favorite like sketch tip ever. I do so much math all the time. All right, so those are like right on top of each other. 19. How far away is that? 10. I think that works. We might have to tweak this. Maybe let's try making it like 15. I think that looks okay. It just is unbalanced now, and I'm debating, does it make sense to, all right, let's bring that layer into here, I guess. Come on. Oh, that's weird. Okay. And could we go some way like that? That just feels a little bit better. But you lose a little bit of the consistency there. I don't know if that's the end of the world, though. Okay, I think that looks okay for now. I got a call to action. I don't know. I'm not loving it, but I don't hate it either. So kind of thinking about how are we currently presenting the projects, sort of in this look here. We've got way more vertical space here. So I'm trying to think, maybe we go more of the Charlie route where we make him much larger. But it will also depend on how you present the blog information as well, because there'll be some consistency there. Probably, I'm kind of imagining. They're different content types, but I think there could be some consistency. Let's see here. Let's look at my current blog. So right now I'm kind of just going with this approach. We got some tags. We got some details here. We got kind of a hero section. So it's a simple blog layout. I was actually wondering, I wanted to look at some other blogs. Let's look at the Buffer blog. These are just blogs that I really appreciate their visual design. So this is kind of cool. They kind of have like a timeline effect almost. Contently. Like their blog as well, the Content Strategist. They're obviously putting a lot of thought into this. And so they kind of have smaller cards. They have to highlight the author. I don't necessarily have to do that on mine because it's only me. I do like these hero sections in the middle. So that's kind of what we're looking for. I forget what blog it was that I was looking at the other day, and it just looked out of this world awesome. I was like, that's what I want, but I forgot to take a note of it. These are just kind of really simple, which I think is also really nice. Maybe go to Dribble. What's Dribble's? What do the blogs look like these days? This might be, I like that one. That's just a cool web design. I like that subtle mountain range in the background there. That's a really cool effect. Let's see here. What do we got? Wow, that's cool. Animations these days are getting so good. Definitely want to try and add some animations to our site, some motion interaction design. But we've got to think about it a little bit more in detail. Let's see here. Nothing really jumping out at me though. let's see, what's this one? Oop, I didn't want to save that. It's kind of, it's more like a marketing site for a fashion line. Less of a blog. What about this one? That was kind of cool. That's more of like a, almost like a landing page. I feel like that would get really annoying if you wanted to see all the blog posts after a while. That's actually, this is a portfolio, it looks like. But kind of cool, kind of interesting. Nothing's really jumping out here. Okay, we'll keep on keeping on. Sometimes you just got to put something on the page and look at it and play with it. And either it works or it doesn't. It's a blog. So I don't know if I want to, I don't have a name for my blog. It's just the blog, my blog. So, and I know on the landing page we kind of had a little tidying here. Maybe you could say something. My latest thoughts on clean portfolios are the best. Yeah, they do. They are really nice. They kind of, I don't know. It depends on your aesthetic and what you're trying to go for. The clean ones do look really nice, though. Kind of a little biased towards that as well, but it depends how you're presenting yourself and what your visual aesthetic is. Oh, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. My latest thoughts on, what did we say? Go design UX. Boy. Design UX. UX should be capitalized. We don't really need a call to action there, which is nice. I made a really simple one for myself, but found out I didn't really have enough cool stuff to fill it with. Now that's what I got to work on. Yeah, and we spent a lot of time at the beginning of this talking about that approach. So if you go watch the YouTube archive videos, those first episodes or two, we spent a long time talking about what exactly we're going to fill the site with. How do you come up with this content? And still, we've got a lot of content work to do beyond what we've already done here. So this is starting to come together here. And I kind of like this hero section. It's growing. It looks really, I think, good here. I don't know if we kind of want this or not. Let's kind of get rid of that for now and realign this back down here. I do want to think about how do we make this a little bit longer onto 2 lines, but you know, we can come back to that. This looks pretty clean and simple here, so I like what we have going on. Like a collection of my best work sounds a little pretentious, so I don't know. Not really on brand with what we want to be saying here. So we've got this blog section here. And I used to, so on my current blog, I have a hero section where I'm highlighting the latest post. I don't know if I still need to do that. I'm going back and forth here on whether that makes any sense. Let's go ahead and grab these cards here, because I think they're appropriate for what we're trying to do. Oop, that was the wrong artboard. That'll work. All right. Make sure that's center aligned. How far away did we say? 40 pixels? Yeah. Let's kind of get a feel for how this works. And we might need a little bit more visual spacing if we're having non-text content right there, more image content. So this could work. This could just kind of keep extending a little bit. More, I kind of like where this is heading. I think I've got some details. So I've got tags that I would need to show with my projects. The other thing too is that I've got, my project titles will probably not be that long, kind of like a website for X or product for Y kind of thing. Versus here, titles can be much longer, and we kind of talked about designing for content earlier when we were talking about our writing. I kind of don't mind this approach here, where we kind of have a little bit more of a, almost a list effect going on. I wonder what that would look like. It's kind of cleaning up. Oh, maybe it's Adam's site that I'm thinking of. Let me look and see if we'll put this over here and then get a feel. Okay, so let me go to the old Google. If it's going to cooperate with me. Adam Wathen. Website. He was redoing his site. I don't know if he launched it. Yeah, it looks like he did. So he's got a pretty cool, simple site. Yeah, and he kind of took this approach here. He's got a whole archive thing. It's interesting. I think more and more people are going with this kind of curated. Here are my, here are my personal favorites. Here are my top articles. And so I think that's an interesting approach. Talks. Oh, that rendered really fast. I didn't even see it. Let's go to the archives and see what they look like. Huh, that's pretty an interesting approach as well. He's got some screencasts and he's got a curate, which is pretty cool. His podcast is great too. Full Stack Radio. Really recommend it. He does a lot of great work. Big fan of everything that he puts together. So yeah, so maybe we can kind of go more of this route here. I like what he's doing with this read this article. I was thinking about adding some sort of call to action as well. We've also got tags to think about. So definitely something that, let's kind of roll with this. Let's kind of play with this a little bit more. Alrighty, so let's see. How wide was this? Say 540? Okay. Let's see if we can shrink this a little bit more. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't work. All right, probably have to select each of these layers here. Awesome. And we'll center align this. And we'll, again, fix this spacing up. I'm actually going to ungroup a lot of this just to make sure we're all rolling here. What's going on? Is this convoluted layers going on here? It's a little strange. Why are these on? Do we scale this? I don't know what's going on. Sometimes Sketch can get a little weird with the bounding box. Alright, that looks like we're cooking with gas now. And so I'm going to go ahead and try making these bold, just because here we just want to establish the text hierarchy a little bit stronger than we had on the other page. And honestly, let's try, so this is what, 28 pixels. I think we said this is 21 pixels. So that's also 25 pixels, which I think is fine. And that can be 18. Perfect. I think that was honestly what I was going to do in my head. So that looks good. I think it works out for what we're trying to do here. So we've got this, and we'll probably use our colors when we start going into the mockups to really make this a little bit more apparent. We can kind of enhance the what am I trying to say here? The text hierarchy as we add some colors. Okay, so we've kind of got this read more, and we've also got tags. The way I was thinking about doing this was to have, so I don't know if, I'm kind of debating where do I want to put the tags. We can put them on the bottom here, and then maybe the read more would go over there. Let's try that and see how that starts working for us. I might get away from using the icons. So I'm using just kind of font awesome icons there. And let's make this like 14. It's probably as low as I want to go here. 12 pixels, you start getting really small and it's hard to see what's on the page. So let's see here. What would this be? This would be like Laravel. Oh, we can make these auto. And let's see, this will be Nova. It's probably my code, something like that. Let's maybe increase the spacing here. And I think when we start working with colors a little bit more, we can make these look a lot more. We can increase the affordance. For now, though, I think they're looking okay. All right, so that's all the way to that side. Okay, and we'll maybe say, I don't know, what's a good call to action? Read the article, keep, read post. Let's say that. What did Adam say? What was his call to action there? Read this article. Very on the nose there. I think that's fine. I like what he's doing with the arrow. I think that's a nice touch. So let's see here. I think I've got font also installed. Yeah. Let's see. Arrow right. There we go. And let's try making it lighter. Nice. And maybe we'll make that a little smaller. That feels pretty good. Center align that. I don't know. I don't love where this is falling. Maybe we can kind of. I gotta look at font also and see what the arrows look like. They have a longer arrow, which just I think would look a little bit better here. I just don't remember the code for it. Where do we see that guy? You say arrow right. Oh, just long. Okay, let's try that. There we go. That one looks a little nicer, kind of what we're going for. So maybe we even make that larger. Yeah, we can center align that guy. Maybe we'll put it on baseline. I think that's what was my problem. Maybe we can group that. Awesome. And maybe we'll bring this over a little bit more. Nice. So more or less, I think this is what we can kind of go for here. Now another option would be to put these tags in between here. But I don't know. I kind of like where this is heading. So let's keep on rolling with this. Those are kind of our tags. Kind of we kind of have a little footer almost. And we'll group that together. Now let's copy this. Bring that down. I think we had this about 5 pixels away. Yep. Cool. That's nice because I can have. I've got it set up where I can have as many tags as I want. So we've got plenty of room for tags. This will stack pretty well mobilely. We'll just bring the read post down here. Or even, we might even be able to get away with it. We'll probably just bring it down in case we do have a whole bunch of tags for whatever reason. So I'm liking this direction here. Maybe 40 pixels. Let's try that. That's looking pretty good. Kind of gets away from. So I kind of have. I don't have thumbnail pictures actually. I just have a photo, a headline photo, a header photo. Image processing is one of the reasons why I need to redo my website because I feel like I'm one post away from just blowing up my server. Because when I set it up, I did not know really how to do image handling that well, and I've since then had a lot more practice with it. So I always feel like I'm just one blog post away from really blowing up my whole website because of the image handling and putting another huge image, or not even huge. I've gotten a lot better at pre-processing them, but it's just I don't know. We'll see. So cleaning that up is going to be a big part of the refactor here. Okay, so we've kind of got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. I'm thinking, let's just start with 4 here. And maybe we can kind of grab this guy down here. And make sure we're on the right page. And I'm going to flip this that way. Kind of how we had it. Maybe make sure that that is in the background. Something, it's an idea. And I know we're going to have to tweak this. There we go. Maybe make it a little bit more in the center there. I don't know, just so with my blog, I'm really debating. So I used to run a newsletter. I still, it just takes so much time, but it's really the best way to build long-term engagement with your blog, because you can always share your latest posts and stuff like that, or your latest work. So like the theory, I guess this is kind of the content strategy behind it, is that anyone can come to your blog, but they can leave, and they could potentially never come back, right? And with a newsletter, what you do is you can, if they're interested, right, they have to opt in. But if they're interested in your content, you have a chance then to reach back out to them and say, hey, I've published something new. Maybe you'd be interested in it. Come on back. And so the newsletter, it's just your only opportunity with content to really continuously drive engagement without like relying on virality or social sharing. So that's a theory, at least, the content strategy behind having a newsletter. And so I appreciate that. Problem is, like, I just don't know if that's worth my time and my effort. Everyone, I think all the content marketers are screaming at me, yes, it is worth my time and my effort. But it just takes, it's hard to stay on a schedule. Like, these live streams are great because I can just kind of hop on and start talking. And I don't necessarily need to prep as much, especially because we're doing everything on the stream. Versus those newsletters, they can take 2 hours if you're doing a really good one. So I don't know. It's kind of the trade-off there between all the designs or the amount of work you want to make for yourself, more or less. So right now I'm going to say join me on Twitch. And I kind of have a call to action to my Twitch channel. Maybe drive some engagement there where everybody's hanging out now. I think would be useful. Alrighty, cool. I used to do like not career coaching, but project coaching, stuff like that. Also valuable, something I enjoy doing immensely, but again, it's a huge time investment. And my time has gotten much more constrained recently, so these are the trade-offs you can make, and then we'll just have content below it, and that'll kind of be infinite content, right? Whatever you want to find, reverse chronological, I think that's right, order. Cool. That's more or less, I think, how the blog page is going to go down. Maybe we'll have this overlap here, maybe not. It's kind of cool for right now. Or maybe we won't even have the swoosh. Maybe we'll make it more of a straight line. It depends on how hard this is to implement. I'm not anticipating it to be hard, but you never know. I think it's the things you don't think are going to be hard that end up being the hardest. Okay, now, so that was how we handled the blog stuff. Now with projects, we can kind of take a similar approach if we wanted to, which I think is going to be interesting. So we could do it that way. I don't really have tags for projects though, so that would kind of be interesting. We could kind of just continue to use our project design that we have here, which I think that'll work. So let's kind of grab that. We kind of looked at this, I know, a little bit earlier, and I didn't like it, but sometimes you just need to give it a little time. Yeah, the reason I don't love it is just because I feel like that's so close. But we can increase the white space a little bit. That's okay. We have learn more down here. I don't know if that's the call to action that I want. See. Let's say read case study. The other thing that's interesting is, so I've got 30 something blogs, but I really will only ever have maybe 6 at the max projects. So it doesn't need to necessarily support all this work here as well. Maybe we will go for that more of a stacked approach here. Let's try it. Let's see what it looks like. All right, so we were saying this is about 540. And we'll bump this up to maybe 250. It looks pretty good. What was the spacing? 3. Cool. How big are these? These are about 25. So what is that? 25. Cool. 18. Awesome. That's also 18. I think we made it a little smaller here. Made it like 14. We'll make that 16. Alrighty. Oop. Okay, that did work. And then we kind of center align this. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit, still like a lot of images, but I think it's heading in the right direction. And then we can bring this down. Something like that. How far away are these? 40? Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. About 70 pixels there. Great. And let's just tidy up the names here. Let's make it look a little different. I know, even just having these two right next to each other is kind of throwing my mind off. So making sure that you, I don't know, try and have at least different headers, I think will help make the design feel a little bit more realistic. Okay, cool. So I like that direction. I guess we could make it the full width, but that kind of gets away from our structure that we're going for here. Maybe we up the white space there, but we can maybe play around with that a little bit more when we get high fidelity. Nice. I think this lends itself really well to the tag setup that we've got going on. Let's kind of work on that page next. So we'll call this blog tags. So this would be like posts on Laravel. I don't know. I guess that should be. Why am I doing it that way? I'd say like Laravel. If I could spell today, that would really help. Laravel posts. My latest thoughts on whatever the topic is. I think that works. Yeah, we can kind of, I think we were kind of making this a little bit more dynamic, so I'll center align it. And then, I guess all of these have Laravel. But it would probably be less or something. Oh, we could leave those 4. Get rid of them down here. I'd probably remove this call to action. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it'd be dynamic if there are enough posts to make it worthwhile. Maybe we can even highlight these guys. Yeah, something like that. Just to kind of say, hey, you're looking at the Laravel post, and these therefore these are the posts that have Laravel. Something like that. Nice. I like where that's heading. I don't know. The tag system might be a little overkill for the quantity of content I have, which is not a lot. But also I don't know. It might be overkill, but it's kind of a fun engineering challenge, and I kind of like it. It really also helps with my coming up with related articles, which is something I'm doing on my current blog. So if we go, where do we go? Into a post. We kind of keep scrolling. Down here, I kind of have related articles just to keep people, if they want to keep reading, they can keep reading, and something relevant to what they were recently reading. That's a nice way to help boost engagement, I think, generally. So I don't know, it's a good approach for me, at least. We kind of changed the visual design here a little bit. My blog posts, I'm not really going to change, I think, all that much. I think these will kind of be what they are. Okay, great. And let's go ahead and bring this over here. We'll call this a blog post. And so this, I might diverge from our hero section here. It's because I do like the big full hero image that we were kind of doing. Just as a way to reinforce it. Might be something I do with the projects as well, so let's kind of play with that and see how we like it. So let's make the border radius there 0. Oh, that is a square. And what is that, 308? Cool. No, that's 298. Great. If we wanted to keep it the same size, I guess I could have done it there too. Let's see. That's the nav. So we'll bring that up top. We'll bring these guys up top as well. And let's see here. Where is this guy? 178. Bring it over there. What's that? 784. Cool. Just kind of playing with this, getting a feel. We might stay with this, we might not, but I want to see what it looks like before I make a decision. Oh, thank you for the follow there. Really appreciate it. Alrighty. What's a blog? Alrighty. So that's kind of what I was worried about, that these titles would just be really almost too big. So what if we bring this down to 40, maybe like 35. And then this can be the tags. I think that's how it is on my current site. Yeah, something like this. I like the having the date on here. I think a lot of times people will look at a post and the date won't be there, especially technical posts, and they're like, oh, is this still relevant? So I like having the date on there so that way people know what it is they're looking at. But let's try, okay, let's start here. I think we were trying to hew too closely to what we were doing in the existing design. Sometimes you gotta break the mold a little bit. What are we doing on the landing page? That goes all the way there. Okay. Let's make this larger. And make it like that for now. And this would be the Laravel, something like that. Let's see if that works out for us. like 30 pixels. Great. So those are kind of our tags. And then, all right, this again, I think needs to be bigger. What was it, 60 here? We have all this extra space. Can we get away with that? We just barely get away with it. Maybe try something like 50. I think that's kind of one of my longer titles. Good to play with your content, see what is long, what is not. I guess that's really long. See how it affects the design. Let's see. Oh, it's not going to let me grab that. That's why the center alignment worked pretty well. Alrighty, so we're going to have to make that fixed. This is why you play with real content, because then you can get a sense for it. Okay, so let's maybe, I think we'll say 45, something like that. Okay, where'd these guys go? Maybe we just need to make these smaller. That could be my issue. Yeah, I think that helps a lot. Cool. And so those are the tags. And let's bring this down here. We'll tweak that in a second. And let's say August, like 14th, 2018. I don't know, something like that. Maybe make this one a lot smaller. Make sure we have enough spacing there. We've made this like 18. It's important information, but I don't know if it's the most important. It's kind of meta information. Do something like that. Yeah, so that's 60. We can make this a little shorter. Optically, I mean, that's right on the scale side, but let's try making this a little larger here. Yeah, I think that'll work because it's balancing the top a little bit more. Yeah, that's what's going on. We add 30. 120, 120. Awesome. I think that should work for us. Kind of like the direction this is heading. The other thing would be to bring that like over there, or even reverse the ordering, but I think this is okay for now. It feels a little, maybe something like that, which will have an impact on what we just did. So minus 10, 420. Cool. Cool, cool. And we kind of had this as a fake block of content. Let me bring this over to the blog post. Alrighty. Let's see, let's make this a lot larger because we're going to need the space. Okay. And we'll just make this larger too. Just to simulate a blog post. Oh, that was not what I wanted. Oh, is it because it's fixed? No. Yeah. There we go. So that's the content. That will have all the different types. We've got code tags in there and all sorts of other nice stuff that I'll have to design. I'll probably design that more in code as opposed to in the wireframes and mockups. That's kind of a code thing. Have images in there. But that's looking pretty good. What size is that? 18, 21 pixels. I think that's nice. I always like having my blog text be a little on the large side. It's because, like, I guess this is kind of small, but I don't know. I think it helps people read it. Really, if you can improve the readability of your content, you can hopefully make people want to read it a little bit more. So that's kind of the logic that I'm working with there. And then, what do we have right now? Ah, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. That's awesome. For folks new, we do this every Saturday morning, kind of working on my portfolio, and then we're going to keep working on this until I'm done with it. So we've got the high fidelity mock-ups to go. Then we'll jump into the code stuff, which will be fun. So we'll probably build this in Laravel and Tailwind CSS and maybe a little Vue.js if we need any of that functionality, or thinking about doing some animation stuff. So that would be kind of fun. Awesome. So that's the plan. And then after that, we'll work on the next project, and maybe as a team or community, we'll decide what that next project's going to look like. So I've got an idea for one, but I'd love to build something that everybody wants to actually see being built. Otherwise, it's a bit of a waste of time for everybody. So, and then we've kind of got these cards. We've got this little author card. I like the author card. I think it's just kind of a nice way to, because a lot of the time people come to this site directly to my blog posts. Either they're Google searching for how to solve something, it's syndicated on something else, and so they might not know who I am, even though it's my website. So I think just having a nice little tag here is nice. I'm going to get rid of this email one, but I might keep the Twitter one and maybe put it here. So let's play with this. And how was that? That's the same width as this guy, so I think we can do something like this. Alrighty. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, that worked out all right. And we'll grab a circle. Okay, 75 all around. Get rid of the borders. Make it look like a little bit more like this is going to have content in it. Maybe 75 is too small. We made this 100. I don't know. Actually, you know what we're doing? We're not really using circles. We're using this kind of square design, so let's try that. Alrighty. That consistency is important. Cool. And we can make this a little larger, like 150. Not the best for aligning purposes, but that's okay. Sometimes in the we can get a little caught up in the design phase, saying like this has to be pixel perfect, everything. But in code, it's just gonna like flex itself automatically. So sometimes I'll just say, you know what, we'll figure that in the code if it's like a pixel off or something like that. Alrighty, that's like 21. And we'll make this 25. Nice. And we'll grab this guy over here. We'll go back to Font Awesome. I think that's the icon set I'd use. Actually, we want the Font Awesome brand. Cool. I need to get my name in there. I think they were letting people do that. You had to pay a lot of money during the Kickstarter. You could get your brand in there pretty easily, which is pretty cool. And just like a little reinforcement of find me on Twitter, because that is where I spend most of my social time, or not most of it, but my social media time at least. Not on the Facebook anymore. That's a story for another day. Okay, that works. Make sure we're baseline aligned. Ooh. Cool. Alrighty. And there's our text. This is my kind of sentence. Where'd it go? It's over here. We did a lot of work on that UVP, making sure we have something that we can use in a variety of contexts, which is awesome. This is not what we need. We need Helvetica again. There we go. Is that not bold? Oh, I thought I made that bold. Cool. What are we working with here? 50 pixels? Alrighty, so plus 18. Little math. I think people don't realize how much mental math you do when you're designing. Catches people off guard. I do math all the time, which is great. Keeps me sharp. Alrighty. Not perfect, but it'll play. Especially for what we're trying to do here in the wireframe phase. But this we can tweak. So that's, let me bring that down one. Subtract by 5. Huh, I thought we had that. 150. Alright. Cool. So now we've kind of got this little author section, which I think works nicely for us. And then what are we going to have below this? We're going to have our recommended posts, which is, I think, just a nice little way to keep people on the page if they want to continue reading. That's about 40 pixels. Nice. Maybe this will be a little even lighter than this. Maybe something like that. I don't know. When in the wireframe phase, I'm really interested more, obviously not in the actual color, but like the relative color of all the information. How this is going to look next to each other. So let's kind of plop these guys in here. And we'll get rid of the bold on all of these. And we'll add a title. What did I say? Looking for more? I think that's still fun. Great. So what is this? This is 25. I think it's 35. And bold, something like that. Maybe we can left align that to this. I don't know. I'm kind of over center aligning things, but that could just be me. Maybe we'll bring these a little closer together in this context. One, two, three. Yeah, let's make sure we have nice white space in here, so minus 17. Awesome. So I think that'll be a nice call to action, and then of course we've got our footer. So we can kind of play with the background colors here, see if they work for people. Kind of fade into it almost, which I think will be pretty interesting. Awesome. Is that everything? Are these all the pages? We've got tags and posts. We've got projects work. I think this is it, more or less. Alrighty. That's pretty awesome. So we've got our wireframe experiments done. One thing that I like to do once I've finished pages is actually export them to an image or something like that. And we'll just call this JPEGs, just to make it a little easier. Maybe make it 2x, 3x. Yeah, we'll say 2x. I don't want to blow up my computer. But just export them into images. If you're using something like InVision, it's exporting them to InVision. Because sometimes you can spend, like in Sketch, it doesn't really almost feel like a website every time. It just feels like an artboard. So sometimes I'll put them into files just so I can take a look at them and kind of fake that they're a website a little bit more. Let's see if this will work for us. Alrighty. And these are in all sorts of, I kind of want to look at the landing page first. We can hide the sidebar. Because what you can do is you can kind of zoom in. And this starts to feel a lot more like a website than what we've been doing so far. And you can just kind of get a better sense for how it's going to work together as a website. And unfortunately, like that's, it's a little off there, so we'll stay at something here. But that at least kind of gives me a sense like, okay, the affordance for having projects down here is going to work. So that's kind of all I would be interested in seeing anyway. All right, so we got our projects. I really love how this landing page turned out. I think it's super awesome. That's kind of annoying, but we'll fix that when we start designing the high fidelity. All right, my media. I think this looks great. I spent a lot of time on this section, so I'm really happy with how it turned out. Join me on Twitch. About me, kind of a little holdover from the last site, but I think it works really nicely. And we've Scroll too far, and then that footer. Which, if you ask me, turned out pretty good as well. And thank you, Charlie, for the inspiration on that. I'm going to have to do some real spam filtering on this, but that's okay. Maybe use a Google recapture or something. Alrighty, how's the blog looking? Oh, that's a little annoying. The blog looks pretty good. Yeah, I like the feel of this. I'm still debating this overlap. I'm still debating if we keep this call to action in the swoosh or if we go for more of a rectangle. I mean, it's nice, it's visual consistency, right? So maybe we will keep it. Nice. The footer's looking great. You want to keep it on. This will be the about page. I'm not quite sure how long this will be or what that will look like, but I think this is looking really nice. Just for a little bit more information about me. This is our blog post, so an individual post. I think that hero section, oh, I forgot, we've got to do projects, like a single project. We've done projects, but we need to do a project page. But I think it will look a lot like this. Kind of in here. Nice. Ooh, is that all of them? We only have 5 pages? Yeah. All right, so let's make sure we get that project page in here. But those all look good. And see, that's like such a better approximation of what it looks like than just trying to do that in Sketch and being like, is this I mean, you can do it in Sketch. You can kind of say like, all right, let me zoom in here, but you've got all the artboards, and you can hide them, sure, but I don't know. It's just kind of a little something that I like to do. All right, so now that we've got this blog post figured out, let's call this project. I really want these to be more case studies, so actually focusing in on more of the content, less of the, I don't know, I want them to be really well written and considered. It's a lot of work, but I like it a little bit better than what I have now. Now it's just kind of, I'm not proud of it, which is, I think, the issue. For me, at least. All right, maybe we can bring these guys. We don't need that information as much, although that should be over here. Alrighty. Again, maybe this is more center aligned. Oop, I have to group those. Yeah, they're grouped. Okay. Are they? Maybe something like that. That'll have all this great content. We don't really need this. I wonder if Charlie has a call to action at the end of his projects. So let's see, we'll hop into one. I don't think he did. He just got a lot of images in here. Yeah, he just kind of goes straight to his footer, which is kind of a call to action in and of itself because it's got that contact in there. So I like that approach. What does Justine do? I'm curious. She has such a great portfolio and great whatchamacall. Just content generally. So kind of curious what her, yeah, I think, look at that. That's great. It's a really clever way to think about how you talk about this. Anytime you can demonstrate metrics here, it's super, super awesome. I have to scroll a little faster, I guess. Getting caught up in all this content here. Cool. So I don't think there's really a call to action here, but I don't know if you need one necessarily. I might be too stuck in product space and not enough in portfolio space. I don't think this is going to be materially different though. Maybe if I run into sort of design challenges here, where I'm like, how do I display 4 images in a grid or something like that, I might consider tweaking this a little bit more. I'm also going back and forth between building a CMS for this and I guess this would be under projects, or building just hard coding it into the page and just making it really well designed for each of them. Back and forth on that. But you know, I think that works nicely for us. Awesome. Alrighty. So that is more or less the wireframes. And I think those came out really well. We spent a lot of time on them. I think we've spent about, oh, 6 hours, more or less. No, like 5 hours, because we didn't quite go to the end of this on them. But we've walked through so many iterations of these and so many different variables, and I think we've really saved ourselves a lot of time in the long run. So if we had to figure this out all in code, it would just take a little bit longer, and you can't move as quickly. And I think now we can start really focusing on what the visual aesthetic is going to be, what all these images are going to look like, and I'm really excited to start working on that. So alrighty. I'm actually going to fire up a new sketch file and just kind of save it to the desktop here, and we'll just call this mockups. We should probably have portfolio in there. Nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all of these artboards and bring them over. And the reason I'm not kind of doing it in the same file is because I like to have a record of what my mockups look like. my wireframes look like. That's useful if you're going to, like, I might make this a case study for one of my my portfolio projects, which I think would be awesome. And so now I have the wireframes. I've saved them. I'm not going to like tweak these into mockups. So we'll say goodbye to that file for now and just kind of keep working from here. And so now that we've kind of got the structure here, the layout, we can start thinking about more of our design system a little bit more. At least that's what I like to think about. So we'll just call this like our style guide. And then this will be our, we call these wireframes. And we've got symbols, which is great. So in terms of style guide, what I'm thinking here is what is our text scale going to look like and what is our color palette. So let's start with the color palette because I just think that's fun. Oh, that's not what I wanted. So we've kind of got a primary. I'm going too fast here. Let's grab paper just because, and we'll call it sideways paper, A4, great. And we'll just throw a color palette on there. And I'm lucky because I already have a color palette, or I have colors that I can work from to create a palette. Some folks do not. I understand that. But we'll kind of go through the general process here. And I will go to my website here. So I've kind of got 3-ish colors that I'm kind of using. I've got this darker blue, this lighter blue, kind of almost purpley. But those are my two sort of primary colors. Actually, one's primary and one's accent. So let's go ahead and make a rectangle. Yeah, that's fine. And I think I can just snag this little guy here. That looks pretty good to me. And we'll call, oh, moving too fast. We'll call it accent. That'll be this color here. Alrighty. And then, like, I've got these like shades of intent, and I'm going to work, like, I've got this like much lighter kind of a purple color in the background here, but I actually want to start my color palette a little bit over from scratch and really consider it. Also really consider my grayscale. I'm not using tons of grays and blacks in here, but really sort of consider it. I will grab this this black color though, so for my grayscale, because I do like it. You can start from there at least. Cool. Alrighty. So how do you come up with a color palette? You start with 3 colors, right? Your accent, your primary, and your grayscale. And you actually, like, I find I need a lot more colors than I even think about. So, especially because I think for these sections here, I'm not a great illustrator, but I'd like to do some sort of an illustration as opposed to maybe a image. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that because I could just find an image and that'd be great and I'd be done. Or I could spend a lot of time on an illustration and who knows how that will turn out. I kind of like the idea of doing an illustration though, because then I can make it in SVG and animate it, which would be really cool. I don't know. I haven't really done that. The other thing I was thinking about is I could also just make like a GIF or something like that, or like a cinematograph. I did that for one project and that actually turned out really cool. So I don't know. These are kind of things that I'm thinking about for my asset design. But if we were going to go the illustration route, I would need a lot of colors. So that's kind of something I want to think about here. So typically you kind of have your palette here, and we're going to have, maybe we can get away with 5 colors to start. If we need, I'm going to add another one. So what is that? That's 6, 7 colors. Something to be said for 9 colors too, but we'll start with that. And I think recently, Sketch introduced HSL, which is awesome. It saves my life, because before I had like a little plugin that was doing that for me. So just kind of my preferred color model to be using. So let's see here. And I like to start on the end and kind of get a sense for how dark I want to make it, and then follow in from there. And a lot of the stuff I'm kind of following from Steve Shoger and Adam Wildland's Refactoring UI. Really great book. Highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough, actually, but they're conceptually, they walk through this a lot, and I think it is really sort of super useful. So let's make that a lot less saturated, and bring that down to like 20 or something like that. And so all of a sudden, like, this is like a really dark color, but you can kind of see how the hue has stayed the same, and it's a little bit bluer than this kind of pure gray down here. And that's kind of, I think, the advantage of working with your color scale here. Maybe I don't want to take the saturation down that much. So what was it over here? 94? Let's see. What would that? Yeah, so all of a sudden that looks much more saturated than it does down here. But we kind of want to make it maybe like 74. 64. Something like that. And maybe we can even make it a little darker. It's almost too dark. 15. Something like that. Maybe I do want to have this be 9 colors. I don't know. We'll play with it. We'll see how we get there. And then this guy over here is going to be much lighter. Probably almost 90. That's pretty light. Actually, that works. What if we made it 100? Let's see what it will look like. That's, I guess that's practically white. It is white. So we had it. What do we have that at? 94? Yeah, I liked it at 94. Really helping it stand out there. And so what is this guy? 60? So that'll be like 80, and that'll be in the 70s. So let's try that. All right. I like that. I think there's enough contrast there. Maybe we'll tweak the saturation a little bit, make it slightly more saturated. Actually, a little less saturated as we go. 90. Like 88. Let's keep it saturated. We'll have a grayscale, so was that 96? 94. Sometimes I can get carried away with the saturation, and I really just need to be playing with the lightness. Okay, so what is that? 66. Try making this 76. That's looking pretty good. And then 86. And sort of 96. I think that works pretty well for what we'll be using it for. And then over here, so I know I tweaked the saturation here. Maybe I just meant to do the lightness. So let's play with that a little bit more. So that's 94, 66. Make it more of that midnight blue color as opposed to just pure black. Love the wireframe so far. What are some of the general rules for developing color palettes? Good question here. And this, honestly, this is my approach. I don't think there are hard and fast rules. I think when you try and do it like mathematically, you almost box yourself into a corner and you're like, oh, this is how the math works, so it must be good. And this is where like your skill as a designer comes into play. So just kind of like pick your primaries, right? Pick your, like, what's the single primary color going to be? What's my gray going to be? And what's my accent color going to be? And then kind of going through this process using HSL. So don't use RGB or HSB. They're just going to, they're hard to think about, but you're thinking about, okay, what's the hue? So what color is it? So this is that blue color. What's the saturation, or how intense do I want this color to be? I guess that's not a great way to think about it, but how saturated do I want this to be, like the purest blue hue possible, or maybe less, closer to sort of the grayscale side of things. And then the lightness. Do I want this to be lighter, or do I want it to be darker? And so as you kind of work out towards your lighter colors, obviously playing with lightness is going to be really important. As you work towards your darker colors, going the other way with your lightness. Saturation you can play with. I tend to like to, for my primary color scale, I like to leave it pretty saturated consistently. And obviously you don't want to change your hue, right? Because that's the color. So you don't want to necessarily change that, but you just kind of play with it. You visually get a sense for what your color scale looks like, or your color palette rather. So that, you just kind of, you work with it until it starts looking good for you. And what I do is I start in the middle. So I have my primary, then I go to the ends and I say, what do I want the darkest color to look like? What do I want the lightest color to look like? And then I work back in. And that way you just have reference points. Otherwise, like, you can scale your way out and you might not get to the pure color that you want at the end. So that's kind of my approach, how I work with it. But great question. It's almost too dark. Let's say 14. Alrighty. And then this guy is going to be, so that's 14. So let's see if we made this like 52 or something like that. Nice dark color there, and like 30. Awesome. Yeah, no worries. That's what we're here for. What we're here to talk about. That's a nice color in and of itself. I like this hue a lot. I think it came out really nice. So this guy, it just feels. I think I want to tweak the saturation here, maybe make it 70. Let's see what that does. Kind of mutes it, so it makes it a little bit more in line with the rest of the color palette. That's when I start thinking about playing with saturation. And the lightness just feels like it's not going to do the job that I'm looking for. And same with this guy. So let's see if we can tweak this a little bit. Maybe make it a little more. Yeah, just notice how it like just brought the intensity down a little bit, made it a little bit more muted, which I think just works for the dark side of the color palette a little bit better. And maybe we can even enhance this even further. Maybe we bring this down to like 60. No, I liked where it was at 70. It's starting to get too gray there. And we'll play with this one too. That just makes it look a lot more dark. So maybe we can bring that up to 20. Yeah. What's this guy at? 30. That's 60. So what if we say this is 50? But then that could be like 35. And then this could be 20. Which is, what if we made it 25? No, kind of have to go a little darker with it. Nope, not 0. That's pure black. Notice the difference though. So that's why we do this, right? Because you can use pure black, but it's just so intense. And so having your color scale or palette, keep saying scale, just lets you bring your brand and your identity to the color palette that you're working with. And it really makes a difference. So I'm liking this. I think this is looking pretty good. All right, so let's keep on rolling here. So this is kind of the black color that I was using, which I think works. We can kind of tweak this a little bit more as we need. I don't really have tons of grays. I have white, obviously, but I don't really have a grayscale in here. So I kind of just have this. I guess I do have some grayscale. It's funny. You think you don't have a grayscale, and then you look at the interface and like, oh, I'm actually using tons of grays, and I just didn't think about it. So it's something to consider here. But sometimes what I like to do is I actually like to start with my primary color and really just desaturate it. So maybe bring this down to like, oh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Let me bring this down to like 20 or even 15. Because like if you take the saturation out, it's a pure gray, right? But if you bring it up, look how all of a sudden we've added some blue to it and we've cooled down the gray. And that's the difference between working just from like a pure grayscale versus your color palette's grayscale. And just look at the difference between those two colors there. And so that's the advantage here. You're bringing a little bit of your brand and your personality and the palette that you've already selected for your site into the grayscale, and it just makes it so much more connected. And like this gray to this blue, it's like, okay, it's just gray and blue. But here, like, there's something related about these two colors, and something that it's just almost indescribable, right? So that's something I love doing, just saturating the gray with a little bit of the color palette. the primary color. And that works really nicely. So for instance, if I had like more of a red color, you can really warm up your gray here, even though you don't think you're doing anything. I think we're at 204. So that's kind of what I love doing. And obviously you tweak the, or 212, right? Gotta get that right. So obviously you tweak it as needed, but that's sort of why I'm doing this. Alrighty, and we'll just kind of do the same approach as last time. So this color here, I haven't looked at this color in a long time. I think I just picked it off a website. It's pretty close though to the hue that I liked. For a long time, I used to just use like Coolers or Adobe Cooler to pick my color palettes, and I was just kind of like, this is it. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it, and now that I've learned how to do this, and just really thinking through what my color palette looks like, I just feel like they're so much better than what they used to be. So again, as you grow as a designer, you'll learn new tricks and tips, and things will get better for you. All right, so what was that saturation there? That was 20. This is 4. Notice how that becomes so much more blue? Maybe that's a little too blue. You kind of bring it down to 10. All right, so that guy is at, what's that, 66? So maybe we'll say, what if this is like 50? Nah, I kind of like a slightly lighter than that. All right, so like 60, and what's that? That would be like 50, 40, 30, but this is already at 20, 25. What if we made it 20? Really dark. Yeah, I like that. Alrighty, so let's see. So that's 60, 45, 35, 20-ish. Yeah, let's play with that. You can math it out, or you can just do it. I think sometimes I get like too hung up on making it like a ratio and like or linear, and you know it doesn't really matter as long as the colors work. So that would be like a 45, and then this would be a like 30. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna make this one a little darker. And make this one a little darker as well. That might be too dark now. That's 20. Yeah, let's move that one back up to 30. At least, maybe 32 even. And let's say like 45 there. Okay, I like that. I think that'll be enough variation for me. And then let's kind of go the other way. So I'm gonna start with this guy, make it really light. Let's say like 95, something like that. Cool. I think that looks pretty good. Why not actually increase the saturation, make it a little bluer even? You notice how we're almost back to that color. Make it a little bit more connected there. Maybe that's too much. Let's say 30. All right, that works pretty well for me. Just it's nice to have like a very slight off-white. You can do a lot with it in your color palette. So let's see here. That's 20. That's 30. What if you make these guys 25? Slightly bluer. So this is going to probably be in the 70s somewhere. So let's say 75. 85. This is all the way at 95. Okay. I actually want to make this one a little lighter. Yeah. And even this one can be a little lighter too. Cool. Cool, cool. I like the way that palette is turning out. This feels like it could be darker to me. If we make that more like 42, yeah, I think that's, and then this one can almost be a little darker as well. Okay, I like that. Sometimes you need to look at the full spectrum of palettes here, and that's when you really start saying, oh, okay, this is working for me. And now we've got our accent color. Great, we're really almost done here with the color palette. Alrighty, and we'll bring that over. I really like these blues. I don't know why they look pretty good. I don't know if I want to desaturate that anymore or not. Cool. And this is, I don't know if this is the same hue or not. It's very slight. It's almost the same hue. So maybe we need to rethink this a little bit more. Is this the accent color that I need? Or maybe like more of an orange, use the complementary color would be kind of interesting, just for flashes of color. Because this is essentially almost this color here. I know they're slightly different, but let's see here. That's 81, 94. What if I did that? Or even... Saturation's really different. That's kind of what the issue is. Let's play with it. So let's actually make 2 accent colors and see which ones we like. This is all about you and what you want to communicate here. I like using the blues just because I think the color theory behind blue, calming, trustworthy color, that's kind of what I liked. But I also brought in a little bit of that purple hue as well, right? Kind of a little bit sense of elegance and luxury and all that. I almost think this color needs a little less saturation here. Maybe this one too. Kind of mute it a little bit more. I'm not sure. I like this. I don't know if I like what's going on here, but I think it's okay for now. Cool. What was I saying here? So having the colors be blue with that little bit of purple twinge to them, I think is really nice. Alrighty here. So let's kind of pick an orange maybe. Orange is a really hard color to work with, I've found. Well, that looks pretty nice. Kind of a red orange. The nice thing is we can kind of just make this even redder. That's basically red. It's a really yellow orange. Maybe like 20. Let's see what that looks like. Let's increase the saturation a little bit more. Maybe say there. Maybe something like that kind of works nicely. Like I know I could go and find the actual complement. Maybe that's what we can do. Not Adobe, but Adobe Cooler. I guess I renamed it to Adobe Color, but sometimes it's useful. All right, so I want to find what happened. The complementary colors, and let's grab this guy. All right, so the actual complement is this hex value here, which is interesting. So let's play with that. So what are we talking about from a hue perspective? So that's more of a 38, which is a little less red than what we've gone with. It's 100% saturated, 50% light. I don't know if they actually give us any nuance there, but what if we made it like 80-70 like this guy? Kind of more of a pale orange. I don't know. I kind of like the redder orange personally. Maybe though we can tweak it a little closer to. Yeah, like that. All right, let's play with it. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a more intense contrast, and that's what a nice accent complementary color will do for you. Just really up that contrast. And this is feeling a little too subdued, so maybe we'll make it like 85. Yeah, okay. Let's roll with that. Oop. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and play with the darkest one first. I don't know why I just like to start on the dark side of the spectrum. Okay, so let's bring this down to maybe like, I don't know, 30? 10 even? 20? Nope, that was not 20. We'll probably desaturate this a lot, so we'll make this like 60. And notice like the difference here between this like really hot dark color versus these cooler ones. That's what we're really taking a look at here. I never love really dark oranges. They never really look good to me, but maybe we can really tweak the saturation until it looks okay for us. Sometimes I think it's really interesting just to watch the curve for the lines here sometimes. Like that's kind of going up, slightly up into the right. It's not exactly linear straight across. So that's just me geeking out about color a little bit. Okay, so let's try that. So that's 15 and 50. Alrighty. And then maybe that needs to be like 70. That seems really close. So 85, 70. Let's try that guy. And then, what was that? 65, 50. Let's see if we make that a little less saturated, a little lighter. Almost like a nice brown color. All right, let's kind of leave it like that for now. I think orange is probably one of the hardest colors to work with. I think blues, any cool color is much easier to work with than an orange color. And maybe that's an interesting thought. Maybe we shouldn't use a complementary color. Maybe we could use like a green color. So sometimes I think we get too caught up in like the color theory. Like, okay, we have to use a blue and an orange because they're complementary, therefore that works. Color theory is also about like what we want to communicate here. And so orange kind of has positive and negative connotations to it. And I don't know if they're necessarily aligned with how I want to present myself as a brand or a person. And maybe I was thinking that green would be more of a color that would be more aligned with me. But for the sake of the exercise, let's keep on playing with it. All right, let's grab this guy. And I like this middle color a lot, but I don't know if I like everything around it. Alrighty. It's more of an 85, maybe even a little more like 80. It's already a pretty light color, so it's kind of hard to go even lighter with it sometimes. Let's see here. $96, $95. I also want to make this a little lighter even. Alrighty. Sometimes you pick a color, you play with it, you say, is this working? Is this not working? I don't know if this is working though. Not exactly what I was looking for here. So we're going to scrap it. Although I will save this color because I like it as a color, so maybe we can play with it some other time. Okay. So, again, like the thing we were talking about earlier where Bob Ross would just do all this great work and then just paint over it. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to experiment and see if it will work for you or not. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. All right, so let's try this color palette here. See if we can't work with what we were using originally. All right, so that will probably be, start with the lightness here. Yeah, because the hues are so similar here, these are basically just going to be the same palettes, which is fine. But what if we play with a green color? So maybe like a bluish green. Ooh, already I like that. It's almost too blue, so we'll go a little more towards green. That's the nice thing, like this I think will already look pretty good with this color because we're just changing the hue. The saturation and the lightness are really similar. I guess they're not. I was misspoken. But I think that's another way you can pick a different hue. For instance, like if we go over here and just grab this guy, and we say, okay, we're gonna go for that green. Like you can find colors that way too. Although that one was not working as well, so we'll go back to this green. Oop. Let's play around here for a little while. I'm actually going to saturate this a little bit more, make it a little more, maybe not 100%, but there we go. That's what I was trying to do. Play with the lightness. Make it more of a color you can stand on its own. A good rule of thumb when you're picking your primary color is if you can use it for like a button, that's a pretty good color. Like you wouldn't want to use like something like this for a button necessarily. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. Again, I think it's another Steve Sugar tip. Alrighty, let's play with that. I like where that is. So we can do what we did before. Grab the color. Yeah, I think that it's working really nicely with the blue. Sometimes you just need to put them next to each other. You kind of get that nice subtle pop. And I'm really going to treat that like an accent color, as opposed to a, like, so in my current design, I think that'll help me talk about this. So this is like, basically almost like the same palette, the same spectrum there. And I'm just making mine a little bit more consistent by switching to a true palette as opposed to this one that I kind of came up with. But for these accent colors here, that's like, I wouldn't necessarily use the accent color here. I would probably keep using the blue because that's my primary color. I really want it to stand out. But maybe on like a hover or something here, or a link on this page, maybe that would be like a good use of the green. Maybe I should probably talk about it in the context of the wireframes. Definitely when we're designing some of these, maybe these illustrations, just a pop of green would be really nice. But I really just am trying to use it as an accent and less as my primary palette will be that blue spectrum. So keeping that in mind. Alrighty here. So let's hop over to our darkest color as we've been doing. Bring that down to like 25. Desaturate that, maybe even less, maybe like something like that. So 1550, which is a long way from 60 and 65 here. So let's bring this down to 70. Like that. Let's try to bring that down to 60. What is this? 35. Let's try to make that 30. Kind of like where that's at. Maybe we can even saturate that one a little, or just make it a little darker. There we go. Nice. That's looking like a pretty good palette. And then again, we'll start with the other side of the spectrum. Jump right into the 90s. Maybe saturate it a little bit more. So that will probably be in the 80s somewhere. And this could be like 70. Yeah, somewhere in there. These two colors are really similar. Maybe that's because we can make this even lighter. Alrighty. Honestly, now that I'm looking at this, I kind of want to almost desaturate this one even further. Maybe something closer to that. I think that black is looking good. Okay, great. So I think this is a good color palette for us. Now, we might not use every color in the color palette, and I think that's fine. It's nice to have options and nice to have them sort of thought out and predefined prior to working with them. I think sometimes in the heat of the moment, like if you're coding or designing, you're just like, I just need another color. You can come up with something and it's just not considered or thought out. And so that's kind of what I like to avoid. So this is our color palette here. And I guess we can design this a little bit nicer. So let's see, how are we going to improve this? A couple of different things. I'll go ahead and add a border radius to all these. And an inner shadow. Let's see here. We'll actually just grab our color palette here. And I think that's fine. Oh, the alpha. We're going to make this more like a 50. Much lighter. Get rid of that. A little bit more spread. No spread. And those shadows just kind of help the lighter colors stand out relative to the other ones. So if you're designing a palette and you want to hand it off to a design team, or other designers, stakeholders, developers working on the project, that's just kind of a nice little way to just make it look better than just kind of squares. So, you know, another Steve Sugar trick. Honestly, if you're not following Steve Sugar on Twitter or his website or however he's contacting people these days, I think you're missing out, because he has some of the best design tips, I think, around these days. Phenomenal designer. One of the best today. And Adam Wathan, for that matter. He's not so much a designer, but he is a design-oriented developer, I would say. So, the two of those guys. And then in terms of these guys, again, we can keep using our color palette now, which is kind of nice. Once you have the color palette, it makes sense to start using it. Let's grab this. Did that work? Okay. And now I'm going to change the typeface to Quicksand. And that is because my current website uses Quicksand. I believe. Let me double check that. Last time I checked, it was Quicksand. Font family, Quicksand, yeah. And so I'm going to keep using Quicksand. I like it as a font. It's got enough. It doesn't have tons of options in terms of weights or styles. I think it's got 3. And there's a Quicksand Light. For some reason, it didn't all, light and medium. But it's enough for what I'm trying to do. I don't really have a very complicated text hierarchy with lots of different weights or anything like that. So we can get away with just the 3. Nice. And I guess we'll group these guys just so they're all on the same page. Oh. Cool. And now, what you can do is go through and add this to your document color presets. And I think that'll just make it much easier to work with. It's a little cut off now, but I probably should have done this the other way around, but you know. Actually, no, I think I did it the right way. I'm not sure it's a easier way to do this, but this is the only way I know how. And now the nice thing about this is as we're designing, we don't even have to come over here and look. But this will make a great artifact for the case study whenever we come to this. And one more. Okay, great. So we kind of got our color palette here, all these guys lined up with all these guys, and we'll group them. Oop. Great. So that's just something to think about. And as you're designing your color palette, obviously you can kind of follow the system here. The thing to you really want to focus in on are these center colors here. What colors communicate you? And you can go online. There's tons of resources about like what emotions and what messages do colors communicate. So like blue is calm, trustworthy. That's why like a lot of banks use blue. I've kind of gone for like a lighter blue, which has different connotations than a darker blue. So there's all sorts of things, like thinking about what it is your primary color is communicating goes a long way to what your overall design will communicate. So definitely keep that in mind. And then you can just follow the process we did and kind of come up a little bit more with your color palette overall. What was I going to say after that? So yeah, that's the magic here. Nothing too crazy, but definitely something to keep in mind as you're designing. Let's see, 30. All right, subtract 3 and then 9. Minus 9. And minus 3. And that's the color palette, more or less. I guess I should add 20 to the top and bottom. Alrighty. And that can be our color palette. And then let's talk about our text hierarchy. Or text scale. This can be as like complicated or as limited as you want it to be. I kind of like thinking about it ahead of time. I've been using Tailwind CSS a lot, and that really has forced me to think about my type scale a little bit more prior to designing. And I just think that's such a nice practice to get yourself into. So for instance, we haven't used anything that I think that's 12 pixels. So let's try and start at 14 pixels. Maybe we'll start this at 16. I don't know, we'll have to tweak this. And then we'll just say lorem ipsum. I guess we should say my name. Ooh, let's grab some text actually. What I say about your style guides is you can make them tailored to your content. You don't have to use necessarily, what am I going to say, like dummy text or anything like that. So this is technically 16 pixels, so we'll make that 14. And 16, so that's 16, this will be 18, this will be 21, this will be 25, 28, 35, 40, 60, 72, something like that. And that's not a hard and fast rule. Again, I think with text scales, sometimes you can be like, oh, this has to be like this perfect linear text scale and really follow this math. But I find like you just don't come up with enough options for yourself that way. And so having a little bit more of a thought out scale is actually better for yourself. I know that's 4 and that's 3. What's the deal with that? But sometimes just having those options I think is enough. And then we start jumping a little bit more. So then we go to 35. Let's actually make this like 48. I know we have 60. And then 72 maybe? I don't know, something like that. And we'll take a look at it so that way we finally get the final word on it. So 16, 18, 25, 28. We're gonna have to adjust this a little bit, but that can come in a minute. Alrighty. One thing that drives me crazy about fonts sometimes is that, or working with Sketch, and I think maybe this might just be Quicksand, but like I guess this makes sense that the tracking changes, but now these all don't line up perfectly, so that's just gonna grind my gears. But I'll optically align them so they all work together. Alrighty, so let's start at the bottom here. Oop, that's not what I wanted. I guess, yeah, maybe we'll go down and then up. So what is this? 19. So that'll be, maybe I should have gone the other way. Second thought, let's go that way. Boy, that's annoying. All right. I know we're coming up on our 2 hours, a little over, but we'll figure this out and then kind of call it. Appreciate you all spending your Saturday afternoons with me. It's super awesome. Hope you're learning a thing or two. Hope this is informative. I know I'm learning. Every time I do a project like this, I'm learning something new and just getting a little better at how I was doing it previously, and that's what practice is all about. Alrighty, that's more or less what we're talking about. And then just maybe optically aligning this a little better. Although we're probably getting into half pixels and all that jazz now, which is annoying. You know what? I don't care. I think this will work. Sometimes I think we can, as designers, just care a little bit too much, and it's like, all right, just relax. It's all good. So this is more or less the type scale that I think we can kind of work with. I'm going to do one little trick over here on the side just to make this look a little more designed, because I am a designer. So we're going to do a gradient, and we'll adjust this from here, yeah, to here. And this side we'll make pure white, and then this side we'll make pure white, but we'll set the opacity to 0. And maybe we'll actually increase the size of this. And we'll tweak the gradient a little bit. And that's just sometimes a nice little effect that you can add to a type scale to make it feel like it's intentional that the text is going off the page. Obviously you can wrap it too, but again, just a thought. And I think that works okay for us. Cool. That's more or less the type scale that I'm kind of thinking of. In terms of weights and stuff, like obviously we're going to have bold, light. So sometimes that's worth grabbing. Maybe we'll grab it for the 21. So we'll say light. Let's see, where's Quicksand light? There it is. Regular. That's just Quicksand, and then bold. Just making sure you kind of have a visual understanding of what all these various the options are that you're using. I think really helps you sometimes when you're in a pinch and you're like, what? How do I make this work? And we'll just bring all these guys over a little bit. So there's a little bit more breathing room. Awesome. And we'll group that all together. Bring this down. Make sure it's on top. Something like that. I could probably have labels to this, but it's okay. When I polish this up for a case study or something like that, that's when I'll really start caring about this. But for our purposes, it's just kind of nice to be able to be like, okay, these are like the relative weights in my head of all the typography and all the styles. And so now it's not so much that I'm trying to like worry when I'm designing, like how will this information, like how will I pick a text style and how will I pick a font size. I kind of already have this list generated. And so I can kind of say like, okay, I'm good to go. And yes, I can turn all these into text styles, but for right now, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to kind of wait for them to arise organically, like which ones am I using over and over and over again. So probably like these smaller ones, I might have a few. But for right now, I think this is looking pretty good. Okay, great. So we didn't really get into the high fidelity stuff as intensely as I would have liked to, but you know, this stuff takes time, and that's what we're here to look at. What does this process look like? But we at least have the foundation set for next time, when we can really start hopping into this overall design and what we're going to do with it. So awesome. So thank you so much for tuning in, spending your Saturday morning with me. Really appreciate it. Wednesday, as always, at what time is it? 7 Central Standard Time. We'll be doing some more portfolio reviews. So if you have a portfolio you'd like reviewed, send it my way on Twitter. And I will be sure to review it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Join the Discord. We've got a lot of folks in there who are just chatting away about portfolios, design, code, all these cool things. Talking a little bit today about the Jamstack and using Airtable for prototyping. So that was pretty fun. If you subscribe, of course, there's a subscriber-only channel in the Discord, so we can have a little bit of a subscriber conversation, which is super fun. So like I said, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.